This is a lesson titled An Adventure in Arkansas History. Now the purpose of this lesson is to address a problem that came up in an interview I had with Mr. Crawford, who is a teacher at the Atkins Public School here in Arkansas. And something he observed is that when material is presented in a traditional lecture format, where students are expected to memorize facts presented to them by a teacher and then to recreate those facts on paper during test day, the students weren't engaging effectively, and they were basically just getting bored. Now, in his classrooms in Atkins, he was teaching 8th grade social studies, and more specifically, the class he was teaching was Arkansas history class. Now, the purpose of this lesson is to provide a solution to that lack of engagement and boredom in the class that Mr. Crawford has observed. And one way to do that is to allow students to present their own material in class. And the reason to do that is that when students are presenting their own material instead of something you gave them to memorize, is that it's going to be something that they researched, something that they picked out, and something that they think is interesting, which will hopefully encourage them to actually engage in learning the material rather than like in a better way than they would have if I just give them something to memorize to recreate on a test, because then it's not something that's important to them. It's something that someone else told them should be important. Now, one thing that has to happen in order for this solution to take place is the teacher's role has to shift from an authoritative role to a facilitator of learning. So instead of presenting material for students to memorize, the teacher's role should be to facilitate and to help them do their own research and to find their own material to present. Now, how can technology help with this? Well, in one way is that technology gives students platforms to present material through digital media and podcasts that are a lot more interesting and less terrifying than simply getting up in front of the class, writing something on the chalkboard and talking. Now, the first assignment in this lesson is a Clip It podcast. And Clip It's just a website that allows users to upload recordings on the internet publicly as podcasts. Now, what the students are going to use this for is to gather information pertaining to the subject, which is Arkansas history. And the way they're going to do that is by going and interviewing their oldest available living relatives and asking them questions about the topic, how has Arkansas changed in recent generations? Now, they have to use this topic, but the students can ask any questions related to this topic that they're interested in. They can pertain to social change, economic change, or cultural change. It really doesn't matter. It's up to the students. They can be as creative with this as they want to. But after these podcasts are recorded, they're going to be shared with the class, ideally with a 4 to 5 minute cap. It shouldn't be any longer than that. Now, the second assignment in this lesson is going to be a Powtoon presentation. Now, Powtoon's similar to Clip It in that it's another platform for students to create presentations, but here it's like an animated PowerPoint / cartoon essentially. Now, the students are going to create a presentation using Powtoon, but more specifically, their presentation must address either one way they think Arkansas has changed for the better, whether it's socially, economically, or culturally, and it should explain or hypothesize what caused that change to take place. Or they can present one problem that has come about in Arkansas on the same topic, socially, economically, or culturally, and provide a potential solution to that problem. Ideally, the topics they're coming up with to create their Powtoon will have come out of the first round of presentations using the Clip It podcast. Now, it's also possible that this part of the assignment is going to require outside sources such as the course textbook, YouTube, or school library books that they can use to research the social change that has occurred or the problem that has occurred. Now, the third assignment in this lesson is to create a quiz using Google Forms. Now, on this part, the students are going to combine all of the information from the first two presentations, and they're going to create quizzes for their classmates to take online via Google Forms. Each quiz is going to have 10 questions on it. They're all going to be worth 1 point, and they're going to address the information covered in the first 2 rounds of presentations. A sample question might look like, what caused an improvement in Arkansas agriculture between 1940 and 1960? And after they complete these quizzes, students are going to be divided into pairs, and they're each going to take the quizzes individually, and then they're going to take the quizzes again as a team. Each quiz attempt is going to count for half of the overall quiz grade. Here's an example of a quiz created using Google Forms. Now, the reason they're going to take the quiz individually and as a team is that some students are going to make really easy quizzes. It's going to be really easy to get the points. And some students are going to make quizzes that are really hard, probably more difficult than anything that a teacher would ask on a test. And having them take the quiz twice makes it a lot fairer chance for students to get a decent grade and to really get those points. Now the standards that are addressed in this lesson are shown here. To construct compelling questions that promote inquiry around key ideas and issues is going to be something that was done with our podcast. We're asking questions, interviewing family members about issues in Arkansas history. They're going to gather information in the Powtoons, and they're going to construct an argument also in the Powtoon when they're talking about how changes in Arkansas history have taken place, or how they should solve problems that have occurred in Arkansas history. Now, the Clip It and the Powtoon presentations are going to be assessed on a scale of 20 points apiece, and those are going to be graded based on the thoroughness of the assignment and the information presented, on the accuracy of the material the students present, and just the overall creativity and originality, which basically is going to come down to, like, did the student make an earnest effort on the assignment? So, an example of a rubric for the Clip It podcast is pictured here. And then here is a rubric for the Powtoon assignment. Overall, I think all 3 parts of this lesson, both the first 2, which are presentations, and the third part, which is peer quiz, provide an effective solution to Mr. Crawford's lack of engagement and student boredom in the classroom. The first 2 presentations, obviously, I think allowing students to present their own material will go a long way in keeping them engaged. Number 1, because they actually have to do work. They actually have to come up with a product. And number 2, because the material they are presenting will hopefully be something that they're interested in, or it will certainly give them an opportunity to be interested in class. And the third part, the peer quiz, I think is a good assignment to give students because having them think of their own questions forces them to employ some rhetorical, critical thinking skills that help them remember material better. So I think overall, this lesson provides an effective solution to Mr. Crawford's problem in his 8th grade Arkansas history classroom.